Hello and welcome to the 2020 series presented by the New York Film Academy. The 2020 series are conversations with creative visionaries about craft, creativity, and collaboration. So we're going to have 20 minutes of scintillating shop talk with a brilliant editor and storyteller, and then 20 minutes of answering and responding to questions from you guys, the global audience. So please write in. Now is your chance. I'm Liz Hinlein. I am a director and creative director at New York Film Academy, and I'm so excited and pleased to present Holle Singer, who is an amazing storyteller, an amazing editor, and a fabulous woman. And here is Miss Holle. Hello, sister.
Hello, Liz.
Oh my God. So it's so great seeing you. I'm so excited. I was been wanting to have you on the show for a long time because you're like a genius storyteller, and you really have, it's interesting because, so everyone, I've known Holle for a while. We've worked together. She's amazing. And Holle is very low key, but she has this really intense, cultivated, curated, like editorial sense, design sense, fashion sense, without being the Miss Flamboyant, taking the stage. She's really like a very sensitive storyteller. So did that start, was that like natural to you to be that type of like understanding story? Because I really feel you understand it in a deep way.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here, Liz. I'm so excited. I don't know if it was natural. I do come from a family of storytellers, but I think about when I first started editing and some of the editorial choices I made, and it makes me think, I don't know if it was natural. I think that I've had the benefit of working with some really brilliant editors, storytellers, and wonderful directors. So I've tried to learn from every project and every person I've worked with. And I think it is something that, every person brings their own sensibility. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets excited by different things and looks at the world in a different way. But I do think that you can learn storytelling. And I mean, I feel like I'm still learning all the time. I really do feel like a beginner in a lot of ways on every project.
100%. Do you think, and this I've been thinking about this a lot, do you think that like editors and cinematographers, they should have their style? Like, is that something that helps your career? Is that something or should one try to meld with whoever the director is or whoever the vision of the project is, if it's not your own project?
That's a great question. I think everyone is different. Everybody is different on how they come to it. For me personally, I want to, the first thing I like to do is try and get an idea of whoever I'm working with, the director, their sensibility, and then say I'm working on a music video or a commercial or a film. I want to get a sense of, if it's a music video, the artist, what is their sensibility? I don't want to go too far away from that. And the same with the director. I want to get into their mindset as much as possible. So pretty much when any job comes along, the first thing I do is research. I start looking up as much as I can get information on that director, on the creative people involved, and on whatever that, the music video, the product, the script, whatever it is, I want to understand that. And see what speaks to me, what sparks me, because I really feel like inspiration, feeling inspired is important to me, at least in editing. I want to feel the footage. I want to feel something about the story. And I want people to feel something too, ideally. And so it really can come from anywhere where that inspiration is. Sometimes you hear the song and you're like, I love this song. And it's challenging when you don't. So sometimes listen to what is interesting in that music. Like, what can I accentuate visually that'll make me like that song even more when I hear the video?
And would you say you have a personal style? Like, is like, if you ever like, I do fast cuts, I don't know, like what it would be, but, or maybe what you enjoy.
I feel like my style has been changing. When I first started, I was trying to figure out what would help my career. And to be honest, I was just like, what's something I can focus on and try and help my career? And so I love playing. I love playing with footage. There's something magical that happens when you put a certain sound with a certain shot and it comes alive. And it's such instant gratification. I love that feeling. So I used to just play and play and play and literally just, try speed changes, try changing the tempo of the music. I mean, I came up in Consulate, and Chad Sipkin always, who I was assisting for a little while, he always played with the music and the sound and would slow things down or speed things up. And there was something so surprising, like the same way film, when a picture develops, you don't know what you're gonna get, right? Or if you got anything.
Right.
And it's that way with the experimenting too, like trying superimpositions, just like even like layering things and cutting things and just playing until something starts to happen. And that's how I started in the beginning. And a lot of times in music videos and in short form, that's what they want. They want to grab your attention, right? And still I would try and find a story arc of some sort, of a beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
But everyone wants to grab someone's attention. Everyone's flipping so fast. So what's going to make someone stop? In features, and when I'm working on longer form, you have to keep someone's attention for like 90 minutes. And if you start cutty, where are you going to go? Unless the surprise is, then you're not cutting. Because there's something about surprise that I find is really, if you can always predict what the next thing is going to happen in a story or the next edit is going to happen, you're just going to tune it out. And so finding ways to get surprised yourself in the edit room, and then to surprise whoever's viewing it, is important. But to finish answering your question, because I just ran around a little bit, at this point, when the last film I just did is in such contrast to how I started, because I really wanted the editing to feel invisible.
Wow.
I really wanted the contributions that I made are more things that no one would ever know, because it was changing dialogue or changing a line that was off camera, so that you would think maybe this character cared about his daughter more than we originally thought. But it was I really wanted the editing itself to become invisible and more the story to be the thing you noticed.
That is super interesting. But I want to play, so let's play the White Stripes video, one of my favorite projects, which is so creative. And it is a lot about, the juxtaposition of images and idea, which is what I love. So Charlie, let's play that, please.
You got a reaction, didn't you? You took a one orchid. You took a one orchid and turned it blue. Something better than nothing. Something better than nothing is giving up. You need to do something. Try to keep the truth from showing up. How dare you? How are you now anyway? How dare you? How are you me. Get behind me now in the way. You got a reaction. You got a reaction, didn't you? You took a rocket. You took a rocket, turned it blue.
Oh my God, so good. It's so satisfying and timeless.
Aw, thank you. Floria Sismondi directed that. She is amazing. And
Really brilliant. So is this, I'd just be curious for my own sake. So do you, with this, like this type of project, is it sequenced out already, or is it just a bunch of footage with lots of different ideas? Because you had so many different ideas. We never really went back to the same thing twice, even though it was the same feel.
yeah, so Floria is really open to experimentation. She is, I remember she just gave me some room to play in the beginning. And I loved that horse shot. Loved Karen Nelson lying on the floor and the way she was writhing. And I remember doing all these experiments, just like playing with each one separate, what happened when you put them together, if you cut a little bit. And, you know, she's really, some people really appreciate that. Some people are like, what are you doing? This is not where we're going. But she really loves that kind of stuff. So she would just come in and be like, oh yes, let's do this one and this one. And so that originally was only supposed to be one shot at the end, but kind of, you know, peppered it throughout the video. And then she, you know, even her treatments would just be very, if I remember right, it was said something like a Gothic castle, a horse, a woman. And it was like, that was the whole thing. I was like, okay, it's Floria doing her thing. And yeah, we just played. There was a lot of playing, a lot of experimenting, and finding it in the edit room together then, yeah.
And so is it come together, the threading of the stories? Because it seemed like there's, you know, you could make up different storylines, so you had threads that were going through.
Yes, so there was a thread of Eden, the apple, the fall. There were these threads in there, but a lot of it was playing with like speed effects, reversing. I don't know if you could feel any of the reversals, but and then letting, you know, Jack White just do his thing. I mean, he's so mesmerizing to watch.
100%.
At one point, we're even more cutty, and then we realized, like, just hold on him at certain points, because he's just so magnetic. He's so fun to watch.
100%. And how do you know when you're done?
That's a great question. It makes me think of that phrase, a poem is never finished, it's abandoned, I believe. And so I feel like there is a point where you just say, I think we're done now. I think this is ready. Usually for me, it's when the director or the client, you know, because I just keep playing. But yeah, there's a certain point where you just kind of abandon it. So
did you take like those sort of like experimental ideas into the commercial world?
Yes, I think that the music videos definitely early on helped my commercial career. And the experimenting, absolutely. And I used to do, I mean, I think the industry has changed a lot, but when I had started, people loved options. They loved to see a lot of different options and how far you could reinterpret the footage. And so they would come in with a clear idea. Usually there is a storyboard, there is an idea. And I feel like part of your job as an editor is to listen to everything they're saying and what they want, but also to hear the undercurrent of what they're actually asking for. So in other words, like sometimes somebody would come in and say, we want this really cutty. We want this, you know, this is a brand new product and it's needs to stand out from everything in the category. So it should be really cutty with really fast music. And then you look at the category and everything is really cutty with really fast music.
Right.
And so I'll always give them, I would always give them what they asked for, of course, and do my best. But then I would also explore, what if we had one shot and it didn't even have music and it was just so mysterious? What if we broke this up into like one shot teaser and then the next one, and then like the third one actually gives you all the information that you need? But it's almost like, how do we do something the most unexpected, the most different from everything in that category? But I always had that, the thing I love about the longer you cut, your toolbox gets filled with lots of different effects, different solutions to different problems, technically, creatively. And so whatever project you're going into, you start to have a really big toolbox of like, oh, you need to do that. Like, what if we did this? Or, and the music videos and the commercial world, I think, really helps with that, helps.
How are you seeing commercials now as opposed to even like 5 years ago? Because I think people aren't maybe as adventurous, and it's quicker turnaround, obviously.
Way quicker turnaround, way more assets, more everything, except duration. I mean, sometimes they'll have like a 2-minute film or a 1-minute film, but now it's like, I mean, I can't count how many times we've been doing like a 30-second or a 15-second spot, and someone will say, no one's going to pay attention this long. Let's do this. And I'm like, wow. So in that way, it's changed a lot. There's so much content out there, right? It's so much and so fast, the turnaround. And I think that before, because when things were shot on film and it was such a huge expense, one job, you might have like 2 30-second spots. That would be, a few months of work. Now it's like, and you'd get 2 hours of footage, and now you might get 6 hours of footage, 10 hours of footage.
Wow.
And 100 assets, like literally with all the social,
right. Wow.
Literally could be 50, 100 assets. So it's in that way, it's changed a lot. I also don't think people want a million options anymore. There's too much. There's too much coming at them. They're working on too many projects at once, and I think it can be overwhelming. So I think it's more focused in a certain way. Yeah.
Less art. Are you finding it less artful?
It can be. I won't say everybody, but it can be. But I think that people are also hungry for something that they feel excited, that they want to feel excited by their footage too. They want to feel so, and I think right now there's a big question mark about how to do that, how to keep things exciting when there's so much content, how to keep everyone's interest. I think there are a lot of questions about that at least for me at this moment, how to keep myself excited, other people excited, when it's like everyone's bombarded with so much.
So much visuals. You have so much visuals all the time. So it's interesting because I was thinking, and I want to look at to jump to like features, whether it's documentary or narrative, how the simple, one can have a big toolbox, but it might, and that's amazing to pull those out on commercials and music videos, but maybe in the storytelling, when you really drill into storytelling, it becomes maybe 2 tools, like very simplified to have it really coalesce. I don't know what you think about that.
Yes, I think that the mindset, it's good to have that toolbox standing by if you need it. But for me, in my experience working on, feature-length docs and feature narrative films, it's more about story and how do I make this story how do we keep the audience emotionally engaged? How do you
Mhm.
want to watch? And what's missing? And how can I help solve the problems for what's missing, or what's, we're losing our interest here, why? You know, and be a collaborator and a problem solver with the director.
And in those longer form projects, do you get to, or do you like to come in early, pre-shoot, like having discussions over what the edit style is or what the influence is or stuff like that?
Yes, and I like to hear what are their favorite movies, what are movies that may have pertained to the project. I like to, again, like, you know, what should this feel like? If there, you know, literally I'll ask if this could feel like any film that you've seen, you know, and if, like, let me know what that is, anything, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it doesn't even on a rational level. And then then I need to find things that will speak to me, you know, and excite me about the project as well, that I feel like might help with the project, the film.
Well, I want to look at this clip from when, just so if you could set up this feature, the one with the dance, just for, then I would love to show that.
Great.
So Charlie, let's look at that feature clip, please.
I want to tell you about my best friend in the world. I'm an actress. I mean, I'm acting right now. I'm acting in this because given all the dancing that's going to be happening, we thought it'd be more viable for the dancers to pull off the acting required than vice versa. And the part I'll be playing, or playing a part of, is also, for purposes of identification, a man. My name is Eden. And that is Aviva.
Aviva, I'm home.
Hey, I was just about to go to sleep.
Aviva, I'm sorry. You could have come. It's just the guy.
It's all right. I'm sorry too. I know you need to breathe once in a while.
Everything is always changing.
I want to be with someone who I want for once in my life. Not who you want, who I want, and who wants me.
Don't tell me what to do. I don't even know who I am anymore in this stupid country.
I'm doing something wrong.
You're not doing anything wrong.
Yes, I am.
You're my best friend in the world.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Do I see Charlie? I still have like, there we go. Hi. Hi. So that is so amazing. And that feels like such a you film to have edited. And what did you feel that you brought to that piece? Because it sounded like it was already pretty inventive from the start.
It was, and in fact, so the idea of the piece was, it's a love story based on his relationship with the director Alma Harrell. This is Boaz Yakin's film, who's an amazing filmmaker, beautiful filmmaker, and he does mostly studio films, but he started to do more and more independent work, and he's a wonderful writer. And I read the script, and I was like, I definitely would love to be part of this. And I think what I brought, so it's about his relationship with his ex-wife. And in that way, it's a simple story. It's a love story. But you know how we each have a masculine and a feminine part of ourselves? He cast a man and a woman to play each of the people in the relationship. So there are 4 characters playing these 2 people in this relationship. And then not only that, but he cast dancers instead of traditional actors. So that dance, almost the way a musical works, but with dance. And it's a simple story, but told in a very unconventional, complicated way. And so one of the things I hope that I brought was what I wanted was to make sure that we cared and felt for these characters. That you could emotionally understand this story that could be very complicated. It was, because the 4 characters could sometimes even be in the room together. It was really interesting and brilliant and inspired. And so one of the films I started thinking about, what are complicated premises, films that have a complicated premise, but were just so emotionally easy to feel. And the first one I thought of was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh, definitely.
Love that film. And so I started looking at that film a lot, and also how sound was used. And there's something very naive, quirky about both the editing and the sound. And so it's not slick.
Right.
Even the way Michel Gondry, who directed that film, does his effects, it's a lot of it's in camera, and there's something naive about it. And so I really tried musically, sound design, things to bring some of that feeling into that world. And Boaz really liked it. And, we really worked together, and he's very involved with the editing. And other parts where I just would notice, like, well, we go right from a love affair starting and now it's falling apart. And we never really see it coming together so we could root for them. So one of the things we did was we created together, I mean, he's such a good writer, he went with it, but we created a phone, because these 2 people were falling in love overseas. They weren't physically together. So we created in the edit room this relationship that was unfolding over the phone while we saw images of their lives as they grew up, and they learned about each other, through these phone calls. So things like that, I was really more tracking the emotional arc of the story.
And you still at the same time have to track the logic, the story logic. Like we still have to get, even if it's experimental and not whatever era, you still have to get us somewhere, basically. And so, but with like that type of the phone thing and the building of those scenes, obviously those had to be shot. So was that off of like script meetings with him that you read the script and said emotionally, or that after he shot it, we looked at the footage and then we had to go do more shoots, or you culled what you had?
We actually didn't do any more shoots. So that was, again, trying to problem solve. How do we fix where we can't shoot? And it was like, okay, well, they're overseas. Wouldn't they talk on the phone? So it started with a letter. And then he improvised and then wrote some stuff with the actor. And he just created this whole funny, sweet conversations that would happen over time as they got to know each other. And we put that against this whole long section where we see them growing up as they get to know each other. We're seeing their lives unfolding. So that, we didn't have to shoot anything.
That's great.
So editing is figuring out, well, what can we do? What can we do given these parameters to help, help the filmmaker, help the film, so that they can tell the story they want to say, and hopefully it'll resonate for people who see it.
100%. So we have a bunch of questions here, and I just want to jump into a few of them. Tale asks, how do you usually start when you're developing a story?
Great question. A lot of times, well, I always start with the research. Sometimes I'll even skim the footage really quickly to see what if I think I should do research in another area, if it reminds me of something, or if something recently excited me, I might look at that, something outside of that project. But then I want to start looking at the footage itself. So while I'm screening, I might, if I get to a shot and I love that shot, I might even start to put together an edit as I'm screening.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm making my selects and picking out what shots I like, I'm literally starting these other ideas and getting ideas, looking for those connections or those exciting moments, looking at sound. Sometimes if I'm still trying to figure out the tone or the music, I might even put something on that I think could be interesting or start listening while I'm screening, just so I can start to feel something or get excited by something. And so sometimes I find it really helpful to, and this does change a lot, but the last few years, as I'm putting this cut together, when I'm done screening, a lot of times I won't even remember all those different things I was trying. And then sometimes you have accidents of things like you just liked that shot, so you threw it in. It's almost like a bin, you're throwing things in and then you play it down and you're like, well, that's interesting. And then sometimes it's very organic, a lot of times the way I start, which is different than, say, a documentary or a feature where you have a, or even a commercial where you have a script where it's very clear. But even that, I will often, if it's scripted, grab that, oh, that's a good first take.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the beginning and the end, I want those to be like as visually interesting, or if it's like a humanity story, I want it to be as engaging as possible. Because I find that if your first shot and your last shot are really powerful, it makes a really big difference how the viewer enters the story and leaves, what they walk away with. So a lot of consideration goes to that first and last moment.
And you have such a repertoire. You're like a treasure trove of like inspirations and ideas. And so where do you go personally to go find your inspiration?
Everywhere. I mean, really, I have been asked that before, and I'm really not being, I wish I could say I always go to Pinterest or like I really might follow something that I don't even know where it's leading. It's like I'm investigating something. I might even just do weird Google searches, or I'll think of something like, maybe I'll just be like, oh, what's something, it's more of an abstract thing, like, oh, this thing has a lot of humanity. What's a film with a lot of humanity? Tree of Life. Let me look up Tree of Life. Let me look at the trailer for Tree of Life. Sometimes a trailer comes up before your trailer, which is bizarre to me. It's the commercial before the commercial. But then I'll be like, oh, that's exciting. Who's that director? Or I'll think of a scene, I'll think of a scene from like Before Night Falls.
Mm-hmm.
Love, and I'll look that up and then see what else comes up that's like it. So, the inspiration can come from any place, and a lot of times from the people themselves who are involved. I always find it exciting if I'm working on a commercial and I'll say, it's funny, after like screening everything, I'll say, this kind of reminded me of Warhol first, but then it started making me think, and I love when the agency look at each other and they go, that's so funny because we started with a Warhol inspired, because art can be, you never know what's going to inspire a song, a painting. You just never know where that's going to come from.
And I also think that just hearing you talk this clearly about it is that you really trust your intuition. That there's definitely like a third eye sort of seeing, because you're like, I'll go with my gut here, I'll go with my gut there. I think that's really interesting and very artful.
I think that it's funny. It's not that I don't trust my intuition, but I love the playing part.
Mm.
So I think that it's being okay. I remember when I first started, I was so scared of making a mistake. I was so scared of doing things that didn't work.
Right.
And what I found was I would get tighter and tighter, because I didn't want to put the wrong shot in or make the wrong. And then I spoke with an artist friend who she actually said to me, sometimes you can learn more by looking at what works than what doesn't. And I find that that's so interesting in all creative projects, painting, ceramics, filmmaking. It's like, look at what works, look at what is like, well, that's interesting, or that, follow that, because you don't know where it's going to lead. And what's funny is, and this is something I have to remind myself constantly. This is not like, I hope it doesn't sound like I've got this. It really is a process because, no one likes to do things that don't work. No one likes to spend time and go, oh, this isn't. But I find that the looser you are, the more you're just like, let's just try stuff. You just, and follow the things that are working and that are exciting. Just be really surprised by where that will lead. In a wonderful way. And it's a really exciting part of the process.
And where now, what's yours? Because I know you're sort of we're leading into features and your own work as a director. Where are you interested in now? Where are you putting your spotlight?
I would say instead of it's a spotlight, it's like a wide
A wash.
house. I'm kind of looking at anything that's exciting and interesting. Like I just shot something with some friends, like Zoom style, and it's comedy, and we'll see what that's really exciting. It's new, it's scary but exciting. So I'm already learning a ton in that way. I'm very interested in horror. I'm terrified of horror films, but I've always really loved horror. I like feeling, it's nice to create things that make people feel and make me feel. And so I'm interested, and also in human stories, really interested in just storytelling in general and just the complexity of humanity. Like we're complicated people. We are.
We are. Well, Holly, this has been amazing. And we are at our time now, unfortunately. And where can people, if they want to see some of your work, and tell them just quickly about your new film that's coming out very shortly.
So it just got bought, but this film I edited is called Taurus, directed by Tim Sutton, who's a wonderful filmmaker. That should be out. I believe it's going to be in theaters in the fall. And that's starring Machine Gun Kelly, and Megan Fox is in it. And it is a very independent, I'm really proud of it, really proud to be part of that film. So people could check that out. And that's the next thing that's coming up. And
it's terrific, people. Go see it when it comes out. It's really interesting and intense. And if people want, is there a website they can look at your work at? Or something?
ConsulateNYC.com.
Okay, ConsulateNYC.com.
That's it.
And awesome. And so thank you, my friend. This has been amazing.
Really,
thank you so much.
Thank you I'm so honored to be invited onto your show. This is great.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Check out Holly's work. Look at this website here and be safe, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, Holly. Bye.